Hey guys, my name is Loveless, and we are back with Quirk Knife. So, instead of me doing my usual spiel, I'm gonna just get straight into it. I still can't believe I called him Dad. May cackled dramatically as she set the briefcase down as she entered the warehouse. Quit whining about it. It's been like a week ago. He probably forgot. I doubt that, Hitoshi called. You shut it. You've got no room to talk. Izuku turned and pointed at his friend, who was currently trying to unknot himself from his capture weapon. It's been a week, and Hitoshi can usually keep it under control at the bare minimum. However, he still gets caught and tripped over himself several times a session. But hey, progress is progress. Izuku watched Mei curiously as she brought new little objects to play around with while he trained with Hitoshi, although she had never brought a briefcase that big. Help me, I'm stuck! Hitoshi screeched, and Izuku just flipped him off, currently preoccupied with what Mei was showing him. Is this my new costume? Mei jumped up and down and threw her hands around. Yes, I added the things you wanted, but they're, interesting choices. You said add a little personality, so I gave it some flair. Izuku winked. Mei jogged over to help free Hitoshi while Izuku moved to the more secluded area so he can change. And oh boy, was the costume perfect. Fucking amazing. Mei's eyes tracked with a bright sparkle as she returned a wide smile on her face. How do you feel, Izu? Izuku looked at his reflection in the window and smiled. He asked for the same design for his mouth guard like the helmet, the gray metal etched with diagonal red lines making it look like sharp teeth. The red boots went past his knees, decorated with green and grayish armor. Following Mindbuster, he moved his red utility belt to wrap around his upper thigh. Those alone were able to carry 7 knives each, so 14 in total. His dark green shirt matched his shorts, and he had more armor on his chest, the same color as the ones on his boots. The chest had a small, secure loop that even more daggers could attach, carrying 6 more. There were patches on his shoulder where his backpack strap attached, and it would stay in its proper place. He had dark green padding on his elbows, yet with all that, his favorite part were the fishnets he wore between where his boots ended and his shorts began. They didn't really add anything, but some fashion statement was necessary. Izuku. Mei brought him back from his thoughts, and he just smiled. I look fucking great. Hitoshi nodded in approval, but he held a finger up to add, You look like a homosexual hooker. Izuku snorted. Well, why thank you. That's exactly what I was going for. But I think you mean pansexual. Mei hummed. Pan? Should have gone with Peter Pan theme then. Could have been your vigilante name. Hitoshi continued. You're green and everything. Like a Christmas slut. Slutty Santa? Miss Claus is gonna be drooling everywhere. She has to fend off the other Would you two bitch-ass motherfuckers shut the hell up? I look hot. Izuku finally snapped. Yeah, because that's your number one concern as a vigilante. Thigh highs, fishnets, and booty shorts. Hitoshi deadpanned. Yes, you're right. Vigilantes will get one look at my ass and they'll drop to their knees, praying to my ass like the god it is. Izu, you got muscles, don't get me wrong. Mei struggled to hold her laugh down. But you're just bones. Your ass is a cute, tiny little thing. Maybe villains will want to give it a little pinch like grandmas do to their grandchildren. Hitoshi lost it, and Izuku groaned. You guys suck. Now let me explain the babies I've added. Izuku struggled to keep up with everything Mei was spewing out. I need a pamphlet. Shut up and listen. Mei pushed him playfully. As I was saying, you asked for some speakers for some unknown reason, but of course, I delivered. So, the knee pads here, built into the boots, they're also speakers. They have so high memory drive, so you can just download music straight into your shoes. Hitoshi blinked. Alright, that's pretty cool. Right? Speaking of shoes, the bottoms gave you a little height, but the real purpose is that they are shock absorbing material, so it puts less strain on your knees and you'll get around quieter. May stood up and pointed to his elbows. Same thing. It'll help you with muscle strains, and throwing knives is your kind of thing. The backpack is tear proof and bulletproof with a lot of pockets, so you can organize it however you want. She reached into the briefcase and pulled out 2 iron rods. You guys really can't tell my mom I made these. She might kill me. They attach to the sides of your backpack here. The bottom gives it a little electric charge, and the yellow dial controls the current. This switch extends a blade at the top, and blue dials controls how long it is. The rods themselves can be put into a compact form or an extended form up to 2 feet. May explained why she demonstrated everything she was saying, and they attached to make one large rod like so. Okay, and you can mutter all the time, so there's 3 buttons on the side of your helmet that I made them textured. The smooth one disables the other ones except for the camera. The bumpy one makes it soundproof. Then the fluffy one is like a megaphone. Finally, the switch beneath your jaw turns the camera off and on. The mask also vibrates slightly when you turn it on, then twice to turn it off. Izuku turned the soundproof and spoke, the others clearly not hearing him. That is so cool, Izuku whispered as he put the mask back to normal. Thank you, May. Seriously, wow. Anything for you. And you too, Hitoshi. Hitoshi smiled. You know what? The costume is really growing on me. It suits you somehow. But Izuku, your entire fucking face is visible. Izuku knew that. He told May he didn't want the helmet anymore. I know, he began carefully. But that doesn't matter. The only hero after me is Eraser. But he could have easily brought me in already if he wanted to. I don't want to hide, but they won't catch me. They'll need physical proof first. May snorted. You're really getting comfortable out there, aren't you? Testing out the waters now? Izuku began to laugh at first, but it faded into more of an awkward sound. May and Hitoshi falling into a silence, sharing concerned looks. Izuku's eyes suddenly became glossed over, as if he was looking through a void, his pupils growing small. I don't really care if they catch me. What they're gonna do? Tell my mom? Toss me in prison? Put a roof over my head? Feed me actual food? Provide a free place to stay? Oh, boo fucking who. Izuku knew Hitoshi explained everything to May, but it seems like it wasn't enough to spare her the horror of... Izuku knew Hitoshi had explained everything to May, but it seems that wasn't enough to spare her of the horrors she must have been feeling. Based on her expression she was openly wearing, the atmosphere grew tense and thick. May had begun to rock back and forward anxiously, while Izuku continued staring off into nothingness. You need a haircut, Hitoshi spoke up, trying to break the silence. Yeah, that didn't help. My dad used to beat me when my hair got too long because he said he didn't want a twink as a son. Didn't know what that meant at the time, and I'm doubting he had a fire quirk. Maybe it was a reading the future or something. May slapped a hand over her mouth and turned around, Izuku now feeling guilty for making such a dark joke that currently made his friends uncomfortable. It was silent again, and Izuku kept himself busy by playing with the fabric of his fishnets. He knew he should say something, maybe be fucking serious for once. Although the long hair and the dad thing, he was being serious. But I've been growing my hair out because I want to try something new. I like it. Is it that bad? Izuku asked quietly. Luckily, that was the right thing to say, since May smiled, widened, and shook her head. No, I like it, but I really have to teach you how to style it. You can barely do a ponytail. Izuku chuckled and tucked his hair beside his ears, some strands catching on the corner of his mouthguard. Izuku began his routine stretching while making small talk with his other two friends. Mei trying to help Hitoshi with his capture weapon. The vigilante tried not to think about it, but it was the nerve-wracking knowing his scars were visible. The ones on his forearms, his thighs, his midriff, which put the large burn scar on display. Last time Izuku lashed out at Hitoshi when he brought it up. So this time he opted onto taking a few deep breaths and closed his eyes. Everything was fine. Izuku loved the mixed feelings the other underground heroes admitted about his new costume. He knew it confused them, only a little. The first week was the best because it was clear the heroes thought he was pulling some sort of twisted prank, mainly because he kept saying he was 12 years old. Is that joke a little too inappropriate? Too bad. Mindbuster loved it immediately. They kept talking about how underground heroes need more personality to their costumes, and Izuku never corrected him on the term underground hero. Star was a little put off at first, but tried not to let it show and complimented him anyways. Shadow said nothing as usual. He is always quiet when we work together on patrol. It was the reason Izuku liked his company so much. Eraserhead, though, oh man, that was funny shit. What are you wearing? Eraserhead asked as he pulled Izuku up the side of the building. The vigilante happily swings his leg back and forth. He removed his yellow goggles and pinched the bridge of his nose, blank eyes examining Izuku from head to toe. His eyes slimmed on his face, and Izuku felt himself growing warm out of anxiety and embarrassment, but he forced himself to stay still. Squirming would be suspicious. What? Izuku asked innocently, placing his fist on his hips. Eraserhead opened his mouth and closed it again for a moment, then crossed his arms. Aren't you 14? No, Izuku scoffed. I'm 12. Eraserhead obviously didn't buy it, but he didn't push it either. What? You don't approve? Izuku raised an eyebrow, not that he really cared for other people's opinion, of course. It's unique. The hero hesitated. But if you're comfortable in it, then who am I to judge? You can't judge either way. You look like a walking trash bag. Eraserhead rolled his eyes. Keep that attitude up, and next time I'll drop you. He pointed to his scarf inside of the building. Izuku pretended to be offended. I would never. Besides, I could just do that myself. Not like I haven't nearly done it before. Whoops. What? Izuku cringed. What? The greenette laughed nervously and silently accepted the juice pouch Eraserhead shoved into his hands. The silence awkward once again. And you know what? Izuku would dare say things are better. Not great, not amazing, but they definitely weren't any worse, and Izuku was quite content. The new knives Mei and he constructed were so much better than the ones he borrowed by nearby hero agencies and the ones found at Dagaha Beach. The rod did way more damage compared to his old ones, and the option soundproofing his mask was a lifesaver. He was free to mutter whenever he needed. Izuku also been able to provide a few recordings of Eraser in action for Hitoshi, which were already coming in handy during their training. Izuku and Hitoshi had also been teaching Mei some self-defense, and man, she was fucking scary, and packs a mean punch. So everything is fine. Not good, not bad, but fine. It's all fine. Until it's not. Izuku's day had been on the rougher side of the sun today. He knew the subtle snacks that Hitoshi and Mei were casually sharing with him of concern. Valid concern, that is. Izuku can't remember the last time he was this small, and he was a tiny fucking kid. Don't get him wrong, he was not close to death by any means, but he wasn't healthy either, and that much was very obvious to anyone with a pair of semi-functioning eyes. No matter, Izuku had some chaos things to do. Despite the lightheadedness and the exhaustion, the vigilante was busy chasing the latest villain through some side streets. She had escaped him for the past 3 nights. She had been going around simply injuring vulnerable people for fun, such as children and elderly. Wasn't that ageist or something? Izuku also hadn't had a chance to analyze her quirk yet, because she hasn't used one. It's possible that she's quirkless. Probably not. Izuku finally chased her down a dead-end alley and stood tall at the only exit, clearing his throat as the woman turned around at the disturbance. "Aw, a victim," she giggles with a sheer voice. "You chased me all the way here just to have a chance." Izuku lunged, and his fists met the woman's torso immediately. "What's your name?" "You can call me..." The villain paused as she kicked the side of Izuku's face hard, knocking the mouthguard loose. "Repetition." Izuku stumbled back and wiped blood dribbling from his ear caused by the impact. Izuku bared his teeth in annoyance and nearly hissed. "Come now, this is no way to solve problems now, is it?" Izuku charged his rods, and at the lowest setting, the small sparks lighting up his expression a little more. "You're one to talk. Chaos, correct?" Repetition snorted. "We're not so different, you and I." She pulled out 2 butcher knives and pointed one in Izuku's direction. "We just understand how twisted society is." Izuku frowned. "I think we have different values here, Repetition." She took a swing with her knife, and Izuku ducked just in time, rotating his arm to knock her wrist back, then kicking her torso, causing her to stumble. "Perhaps," she smiled, "but we both exist to make blood spill. You can't say I'm wrong." "You're wrong," Izuku deadpanned, suddenly pulling a dagger from his chest and throwing it, catching the woman's right hip. She briefly shouted in pain, but it changed to a laugh. "I assume you haven't figured out my quirk yet, have you? I'll give you a start. It's called audible incision." Izuku grimaced. Was this low-life villain patronizing him? How rude. "A part of my quirk allows me to pick apart your memories and past emotions, and wow, you really want to tell me you're not filled with bloodlust, just like me?" How could her quirk be applicable and defeat Izuku this moment? He didn't have enough time. He needed to find a weakness in Repetition if he wanted to make it out of this alleyway victorious. Izuku lunged and decided to take a risk, moving the electrically charged of his rod to 4, yet was blinded by his own haste. Repetition ducked under his weapon and tackled his torso, knocking him to the ground hard, and his mind became hazy. Was this her quirk? No, Izuku should have eaten more today. Then he would be thinking straight instead of how hungry and tired he was. "I might not be able to see your memories, but I can hear them and play them both audio and video for you, like a movie. Isn't that fun?" Her voice was distant, and Izuku tried to blink, but his sights were foggy. He blinked hard, and suddenly he was no longer in the alleyway. He was watching himself from above. His 4-year-old self. "Where did Mommy go?" The man with black hair loomed over him. "Mommy has work now, little Zuku, because we need to pay for the medical bills that you caused." Izuku's nose scrunched up in thought. "Because of the visits to the doctor? So smart." The tall man hissed and bent down. "Too bad you're fucking quirkless." "Papa?" Izuku squeaked nervously, not understanding why his father was wearing such a dangerous expression. Hisashi grabbed a fistful of his green curls and pulled him right up to the couch as Izuku wailed, "Papa, that hurts! Careful!" "Don't talk back!" Hisashi screamed, and Izuku's eyes went wide. Papa was yelling. Papa has yelled before, like when Izuku accidentally broke a vase while playing Heroes with Kacchan, but he never yelled at him like this. He never hurt Izuku except for an odd spank on the bottom here and there, which never really hurt that bad. Izuku began to cry freely as Hisashi threw him to the ground. "Shut up! My God, do you ever stop crying? Stop, goddammit!" Izuku slammed his hands over his mouth and nose, stifling the whimpers, but he couldn't help it. He was scared. Please. Izuku tried again. When his father guzzled down whatever remained of the bottle he was drinking and breathed out a puff of smoke. Quirkless. He chuckled. No son of mine will be quirkless. You're not my son. Izuku's eyes went wide as he felt a piece of his heart crack. Why would Papa say these things? But Papa, I'm your... Izuku was cut off by a deafening shatter of glass raining down. His scalp throbbed by the impact, where Hisashi smashed the glass bottle over the top of his head. Don't fucking talk back! Izuku shrieked in pure fear and started to call out for his mom over and over and over again, stumbling to his feet and scrambling towards the apartment door. Too bad his legs were much shorter than his father's. Hisashi grabbed the back of his shirt and threw him back down, his nose cracking against the hardwood floor as some blood spewed out. Surely a neighbor would hear, right? They would come to help, right? No. No one came to help. There was a pressure around his neck as he was picked up off the ground, his legs kicking back and forward as he fought for air. Hisashi looked at him with a blank expression and then smiled. I hate you, little Zuko. Fire spewed from his grin, and Izuku tried to scream, but no noise came out. He never felt pain like this. The heat spread over his skin, his all-might shirt simply melting away. Tell your mother I'll do the same to her, Izuku remembered Papa saying as he roughly bandaged up his torso, then tossed him into his room. Izuku didn't want to cause more trouble, so he didn't tell Mom. He never did until she found out the hard way. Izuku felt like he couldn't breathe as his entire body shook. He didn't even see it coming. He didn't see the butcher knife slash across his face as blood immediately spilled past his lips, dripping down his mouthguard and hanging loosely around his neck. In panic, Izuku reached to grab the rod that clattered to the ground, but the woman was fast. A sharp sting impaled his lower abdomen, knocking out whatever wind remained in his lungs. He heard Repetition's laugh as she slipped away from his grasp once again. Izuku fell again. Oh shit. He really feels dizzy now. And his blood is everywhere. That was supposed to be inside me, not on the pavement and standing in his clothes. Izuku fumbled with his phone out of the pocket of his shorts, struggling to find his location. He could barely read the stupid words on the stupid screen. And then he threw up. Fucking great. What the fuck was he even gonna throw up? A fucking piece of bread he had 8 hours ago? It tasted like iron. Izuku stared at the screen a little longer as his brain finally took over, heading to the only address Izuku was aware of that was nearby, just a few streets down. He stumbled silently to the apartment and almost fell down the fire escape several times until he reached the 7th floor window, picking the lock of the window and stumbling in. He didn't want to die like this. Izuku had to help Hitoshi become a hero first. Izuku couldn't die yet. Oh my god. Wow. There was so much angst in this chapter. Wow. I was not... I should have expected it. But I wasn't. I'm loving it. It breaks my heart, but I still love it because masochism? Maybe a little bit. But not so much, but a little bit. But this story is just so good. I can't wait to read the next chapter. And if you want to hear me read again, you know what to do.